Welcome to Solly
and Khauja
Uncut.
Our new party is not launched out of ambitions of career politicians. It is born of the voices of ordinary South Africans who have expressed their views on the political future they want for their country. I have no doubt that this party will be more than survive. It will win elections and see the ANC and deliver to all South Africans.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, to our next session, this time with somebody who might be the credible alternative that South Africa is looking for, Mr. Heben Mashaba. We're really, really happy to have you here with us, and I'm really excited and looking forward, and I'm sure that all our listeners are looking forward to this discussion. Thank you for coming to join us today.
Thank you very much, Solly, Hout, and the colleagues for inviting me to really engage on the future of our country. I was just actually talking to Hout and colleagues earlier on that, I'm actually doing this job because I'm fearful of the future. I'm not doing this job because I'm brave. I can tell you, I'm doing this job because I'm a coward. I'm fearful of the country collapsing because solely I experienced Zimbabwe collapsing in front of our eyes. And I can see South Africa actually on the verge of collapse. And that's why I'm actually committed to this job to get us out of this hole. So let us engage.
I read your book, or it is a book written by your
former chief of staff.
And I found it very fascinating. And I'm really happy that you tell South Africans, it's a pity that many South Africans will not read this book. We know that, about the extent of the rot in Johannesburg that's been allowed to happen over many years. And you mentioned the issue of about something like, maybe at least when the book was published, about 170 billion rands being needed to turn the situations around. Maybe it's now 185, I don't know. What do you think that could ever happen?
Well, what was actually quite said about the city of Johannesburg. I think South Africans prior to 2016, remember, where during Jacob Zuma's era, everyone thought Jacob Zuma was the only thief in town. And I can assure people of South Africa, actually, the book is there, that the city of Johannesburg actually was at the epicenter of the Gupta state capture. And it is there in the book. You look at the negligence of our infrastructure, because what I did when I took over this administration, running a seven-way multi-party government, very difficult environment to really be in. ANC unleashed every possible machinery to collapse the government that was running. I did a study to understand the infrastructure backlog. 170 billion rands infrastructure backlog with only 8 billion rands to attend to those. 200 informal settlements, some of them 15, 20 years old with no toilets for 20 years. And at the same time, the very same year when ANC lost power in the city of Johannesburg, the mayor and his MMC of finance spent over 300 million rands to self-promote. I'm sure there's no South African who is not aware about this world-class African city with on every billboard, every newspaper, full-page ad talking about the world-class African city. Then, obviously, they never thought they would lose the city. Unfortunately, they lost, or fortunately for us. And I went in, and things started coming out. Really very scary. 170 billion rands infrastructure backlog. Cut that advertising and marketing of the city from over 300 million rands to 45 million rands. Only advertise things that were necessary to inform residents about this massive challenge that I needed to really address so that I can manage the expectations.
On that collapsing note, Herman, your chief of staff, your former chief of staff in the city of Johannesburg, Mr. Michael Beaumont, wrote this book. It's The Entitled Man. In the book, you come up with lots of detail about the problems of the city of Johannesburg. chief of among which is the collapsing infrastructure. You say the sewerage system, the electoral system is collapsing. And you say the SOE has said to get Johannesburg to avoid the impending disaster in the collapsing system, you would need 170 billion rand investment, immediate investment. Now, we know the parlor state of South African finances. Do you think that there's any chance that Johannesburg can be rescued from the impending disaster in the current administration of the African National Congress?
Well, absolutely no chance whatsoever. I think the finances of this country is well known. It's not a secret. From national, provincial, and local government election, compounded by COVID-19. And, some of us, when the president announced that so-called 500 billion rand stimulus package, which for me, the following day, I remember actually requesting the president to give us the breakdown of this, because I never really believe there's any 500 billion rand that is going to be invested in this. Because what do we call stimulus package? Stimulus package is when you've got a budget, an existing budget, you've got a crisis, and then you've got to bring in additional money. Whereas the president was talking about the reprioritization. So you can't call that a stimulus package, and that's why even up to today is not responded to this firstly. And secondly, right now South Africans are asking him and his party, where's the 500 billion rands? Because people are under impression that they stole the entire 500 billion rands, and that's not. Yes, they stole a big chunk of even the money that was reprioritized, taken from infrastructure spend, put it into COVID-19 intervention. They stole that money. So we've got a huge challenge. And now, making matters even with, as you're aware, with a junk status. So South Africa does not have the ability to go and borrow money with credible financial institutions. The only way South Africa can get money to get out of this mess, we've got to go to umatshonisa. And umatshonisas don't come cheap. So we've got a challenge. The city of Johannesburg, I'm sure you're aware, and all other cities, they're not collecting revenue as what they used to. When I was the city of Johannesburg, we used to fund our budget up to 80%, and getting the balance, the rest from getting grants from the province and national government. And you remember how many times I used literally every 3 months I had to threaten legal challenges with province and national government wanting to reduce grants that are constitutionally earmarked for the city of Johannesburg. So at the moment, with the situation, we've got a challenge which I don't know how we're going to get out of.
Well, Mr. Mashaba, there are many people out there who would like to paint you as xenophobic. In your view, what is the difference between what you were trying to do for Johannesburg and xenophobia?
Well, so I think it's very interesting. I remember this whole nonsense started on the 1st of December 2016. During my 100 days, bringing the residents of the city of Johannesburg, giving them 100 days of what I've discovered and what my plans are for going forward. And I raised this matter during the press conference afterwards that South Johannesburg is sitting with a massive challenge of undocumented foreign nationals. And this matter, unfortunately, the responsibility lies with Home Affairs. And us as the city of Johannesburg, we're going to take them up on this matter, because there's just no way that the city, while we are failing our own citizens, that we can take care of citizens of the city of the world. And I said, all the undocumented people who are in South Africa illegally, we're going to engage Home Affairs to send these people to where they came from, or otherwise, if they qualify to be in South Africa, then let it be. Our constitution is clear, because South Africa is a sovereign country. A sovereign country has got borders. So I don't understand how anyone would really call me xenophobic. But fortunately enough for me, I've learned one thing, that I'm trained to challenge things that are not really correct. And obviously, if I get a response, that actually gives me more determination that definitely there must be something. And one thing that I can assure you, majority of the people, if not all of them, all these people who call me xenophobic, are those who are direct beneficiaries of this criminal activity happening in our country.
So in hindsight, if you had to go back to, say you were given the city of Joburg again tomorrow, would you change anything in your approach to the problem of illegal immigrants into the city, or taking into consideration what's been said, would you do anything differently?
In fact, sorry, I'd like people of South Africa to know that come 2024, I'm working around the clock, working very hard. And I'm making a commitment to South Africans that we're going to have a unit in our government, if people of South Africa can give us the mandate to be government, where all the citizenship awarded since 1994, we've got to really look at them, because we know a big percentage of them were awarded illegally and fraudulently. And we are going to revoke them. And these people who were part of this, both South Africans and the foreign nationals. Obviously, foreign nationals will send them back to where they came from. South Africans who are involved in this criminality will make sure that they face the might of the law. So one thing I'm saying to South Africa, we are going to intensify this, because South Africa is a sovereign state, and without us following on the rule of law, then we might as well kiss this country goodbye, because it will collapse. And unfortunately, it's not going to collapse under my watch.
60% unemployment rate among young people. And there are many young people coming over the border from Zimbabwe and elsewhere. What is your perspective as Action SA about youth unemployment, especially in the short and medium term? Do you think it's prudent to give them basic income grant, say 1,000 rand a month, as some people on the left suggest?
If I have my way, I'll give them 1 million rands a day. But I can tell you, even the 1,000 rands a month that you're talking about, the South African government does not really have that money. I'm sure you're aware our debt right now sitting at over 80%. Right now, the budget of education in this country is actually less than the interest rates that we are paying. So you can imagine now, tell me, can we go and borrow money to go and give people free money? Someone is going to catch up with you. This is what Machoni says. One day they'll take over our country, because South Africa is not actually quite far from being unable to meet its debt repayments. We're not far from that. I don't know if we'll get to 20. Yeah, we're on that. So whether we're going to make it up to 2024, I think perhaps we need to go to church a bit and work a bit harder, because at this rate of borrowing, we've got a huge challenge. I think if we want our youth to work, I grew up, and that's something I keep telling South Africans. It's not a movie, it's not a fiction. When I grew up, South Africa was short of labor. That is why, as students, would get temporary jobs during weekends, we'll get temporary jobs during school holidays. Today, I've got kids in my own family with university degrees, 5-6 years after completing their studies. They cannot get employment. At the same time, South Africa, I don't know if South Africans are aware, that we're the only country in the world with the massive industrial infrastructure. And by world standards, this infrastructure is what, 50, 60 years old? By world standards, this infrastructure is still new, lying empty. The Tripartite Alliance, since 1994, went about closing one factory after the other. They're still continuing up to today. They celebrate the closure of these factories. I'm saying is we're sitting on a gold mine, we're sitting on a huge opportunity, low-hanging fruit. where we can invite the private sector to say, guys, here are the factories. Tell us how much you can invest. Tell us how many of our people you will employ. Have it maybe for the next 10, 15, 20 years. You don't have to really pay taxes as long as you employ our people. Refurbish these factories so that people of Amanskraal, people of Xwatwa can find employment in their communities. They don't have to really come to Johannesburg. That is how you can address the issue of youth unemployment. You don't address it by giving freebies of something that you don't have, with all the best intentions. Tell me, what can you do with 1,000 rands? With 1,000 rands, I can tell you, I go to a restaurant, the bill when it comes is 4,000 or 5,000 rands with 4 or 5 of us. So groceries, tell me a grocery of 1,000 rands, even a 10-year-old child can carry it to the home. So 1,000 rands, it's not enough. Actually, you are destroying the self-esteem and the dignity of our people. And that's something that, for me, is of major, major concern. You destroy the dignity of our people. You destroy their education. I'm sure you are aware, as South Africans, that 80% of public schools in this country are dysfunctional. 80% of public schools. They're not effective, they're dysfunctional. SARTU.
The whole education system.
They're dysfunctional. So how can you then say you're serious about the welfare and the success of our youth when you deprive them of education? But let me tell you another interesting factor that is of concern to me. While you're depriving them of education, you're depriving them of job opportunities. What you do, you open your borders to international drug syndicates to bring drugs into your country. Then what you do, you destroy their families. Because these porous borders, these massive drugs are coming into our country with the full knowledge of our government. And that's why when you raise it to Soli, they will call you xenophobic. And I can tell you, you know what, you can call me anything. We're going to deal with this evil, this Satan that is ruining our children in our country, and with the full knowledge of the criminal justice system, our law enforcement agencies. But not that they do it deliberately. The problem is the government. They are not providing the necessary decisive leadership.
Yeah, Mr. Mashaba, there's so much to talk about. Before we go to the future, I want to take you back to the past a little bit, your past in Johannesburg. The EFF is almost like a moving target, isn't it? Because I know that they've been there for you in moments, at least some moments when you needed them, but they also don't seem to appreciate that South Africa will always be a diverse country. It's never going to stop. And anybody who wants to lead a country such as South Africa must have the wisdom, the patience, the emotional intelligence, the empathy to be able to reach out to all South Africans and make them feel they belong. Now, if you go into government in the future, do you see yourself having the same kind of relationship with the EFF that you had in the past? Mindful that a lot of people think that you sold your soul to the economic freedom fighters. They go around making threats, and you stand for South Africa, for unity, for all that sort of thing. How are you going to reconcile all of this?
I think, sorry, anyone would really come out with that kind of analysis. It's actually someone who's failing to use their brains to understand the three spheres of government in South Africa. South Africa has got three spheres of government. You've got local government level, where the service delivery to make sure that your refuse is collected. You've got street lights. You've got functioning city. It's not about ideology. It's about you've got 60 billion rands budget. Where do we spend this money? There are no ideologies. Whereas at national government level, that's where you've got ideological differences, big ones, which without any doubt, and I've made it really very clear personally when I took over this job. At the time, after only getting 38% of the votes, running a 7-way coalition arrangement with the EFF voting with us on an issue-by-issue basis, using common sense. The only way you have a coalition arrangement to work is to respect all the parties for as long as you agree on the budget and where to use this budget. And one thing for sure, without any doubt, the EFF supported my pro-World stance, because when I looked at the living conditions of millions of the black people in the communities, and I said, this is where we're going to give dignity to people. People with no toilets, living in informal settlements for 15, 20 years without budget. And people who obviously were critical of me are people who are saying, no, please come and cut grass in Sandton. People of Sandton are the ones who voted us into power. I must be, then I'm being accused of spending money of people of Sandton with people who have never voted for the DA, because obviously I think that is where the criticism came from. The conflict between the DA and I started literally from the beginning, because they felt I'm spending their residents' money, their voters' money, with people who never voted for them, people who don't pay taxes. And I think for me, you can imagine, Solly, for someone to really make such a statement to me, it's an insult. And I remember on many occasions at FedEx warning the DA about this, that I think, guys, you are insulting me. You are actually insulting me, because once you tell me about people living under these conditions, that they are not taxpayers, they are unemployed, they don't vote for us. At the same time, we are a party that has got an identity problem. And I think for me, it is not about actually getting these people to vote for us. When you're government, when you provide service, you don't only provide service to people who voted you into power. You provide services to everyone. So for me, the question of the EFF, I'll work with them at the local government level, as long as obviously they want to work with us in the event we don't get outright majority. I'll work with the Freedom Front Plus. What I find very interesting, Solly, the question you've asked, the very same people have got no problem with me working with the Freedom Front Plus. But they have a problem with me working with the EFF on pro-poor policies. Freedom Front Plus, excellent partner in supporting pro-poor policies, with the exception of the DA and the ANC. The DA and ANC, for some reason, they hate poor people. For some reason, they hate poor people. These two parties, poor people are not on the agenda when it comes to service delivery. Will I get into a coalition arrangement with the EFF at national government level? Not a chance, because that is where we've got such huge differences. The EFF and I come from two different worlds. There's just no way that, given an opportunity to work with them at national government level, I'm making it upfront. I will not really work with them, because we are not going to agree on lots of issues. We're a party committed to non-racialism, not just by talk. We committed to it. Unlike the DA, where they talk about commitment to non-racialism, they'll tell you people don't pay taxes and so forth. They don't vote for them. We are committed to all South Africans. We are committed to free market economy. The EFF will not really agree with us on these issues. And honestly, I don't think I'm prepared to really go into any debate around those issues. Under our government, if the people of South Africa give us the mandate, the private sector is going to be the one driving the economic survival of this country. The mess that ANC has put us in, the only way we can get out is by using the private sector. Like I did in the city of Johannesburg, the 3 years as a mayor of the city of Johannesburg, managed to convince the EFF to support us to expropriate buildings which were abandoned. We identified almost 600 buildings. We had already, by the time I left, 154 of them passed by council, bringing the private sector 32 billion rands worth of investment in the city of Johannesburg, where we can build affordable accommodation for our people using the private sector, because government does not have money to build houses for our people.
I know that we still have 2021, the local government elections coming up, but let's suppose that you have the momentum, the resources, the energy to pull it all the way to 2024. And one day you stand there as President of the Republic of South Africa. We know that this country is in pain. This social cohesion has been damaged big time. What is the one thing that you would say to South Africans as President of the Republic of South Africa?
Look, Solid, there's just no one silver bullet to this myriad of challenges that we are facing. I think if you look at our 7 core values, non-negotiable that we stand for. We stand for non-racial South Africa. If you're looking for a racial party, I make it very clear. I'm sure if you follow me on social media or in any platform, including this one, if you're looking for a racial party, thank you. I don't need your vote. Go somewhere else. I think this, for me, is not negotiable. If you are looking for a party where the government is going to be an economic driver, go somewhere else. And I'm not saying this out of arrogance. I think I'm not the kind of person that is going to stand on the fence. I need people to know where I stand upfront. It's either we agree or we disagree. And there are certain things that are not negotiable for me. For me, non-racialism is not negotiable because without embracing one another as human beings, there's just no way of us as a country to really move forward. And I want to work with all South Africans who are committed to this mission on ensuring that one day my grandchildren can be South Africans first before they're black.
Herman, the World Bank says corruption is the biggest risk to economic development post-COVID. Ramaphosa seems unable to delink the state from state capture. He's unable to eliminate state capture. What do you think should be done immediately to really stop this moving train called corruption?
Well, unfortunately, there's no way that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to be decisive on corruption because he's been part of the ANC since 1994. He's been on the executive leg of part of the ANC since 1994. I think for me, the biggest shock came when he even accepted to be Jacob Zuma's deputy president. That's when I lost respect for Cyril Ramaphosa, because I would have lost the respect for anyone who was prepared to work with the current ANC, more especially under Jacob Zuma. Remember in 2014 when he became the deputy president. Now look at what happened to Eskom. Every day we are told how that institution, that organization 25 years ago was one of the world-renowned entity. Eskom used to really be respected by the international community as one of the electricity generators in the world. Under Cyril Ramaphosa, because Jacob Zuma gave him the responsibility of all the SOEs. SA Airways, look at SA Airways right now. People have lost jobs, that airline is gone. For me, SA Airways, I can tell you, given an opportunity, SA Airways, I'll actually pay someone. I'll come out with a bid to say, guys, how much do you want to take over this airline? Not to sell it, because you can't sell it. No one can take it for nothing. The only way you can save SA Airways and save the taxpayer of South Africa, you've got to pay someone to take over. So that's how bad it is, because there's just no way that you can listen to the president saying that they're looking for an equity partner. They must be smoking something, because no one is going to put a cent into the airline unless you pay someone to take it over. Great brand, give it to entrepreneurs and the investment community, let them put their money the way their mouths are. So we've got to free up the criminal justice system. And can President Cyril Ramaphosa free up our criminal justice system? Unfortunately, if he does that, at least 80% of his cabinet, 80% of his senior people, or within 3 months, they'll all be there in blue overalls.
I like the point you're making there, because it goes to the issue of, when you look at state capture and a lot of what's happening in South Africa, The roots are in the system. We need systemic changes. South Africa doesn't just need somebody, a new face, a new team to come in. Maybe there are too many powers, too much power in the office of the president. Maybe the call recently by the NPA to be separated from the Department of Justice, to be turned into a Chapter 9 institution. So I'm interested to know what kind of systemic changes you would bring in.
Sorry, without removing ANC out of power, forget about this country's recovery. That must be the goal of South Africans. If we're serious about achieving results, I'm a results-driven person. I don't deal with issues at a cosmetic level, more especially serious matters like running of the country. So the only way we can save this country, we've got to democratically remove the ANC from power. To think that you can fix the ANC, also, honestly, anyone who ever thinks that you can fix the ANC, that person is smoking something that I don't know what it is. So that would really be the first thing.
In your book, you say you gave Ramaphosa, 60 cases for him to investigate.
No, I remember 2018 during the June 16 event. Obviously, as the president and I was the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, we sat next to each other. And I raised the issue with him. I took that as an opportunity to say, Mr. President, because he used to write letters to him to bring cases of corruption in the city of Johannesburg, not getting the cooperation of law enforcement agencies. So I sat with him for about an hour or so. So I used the opportunity to say, Mr. President, I'm sitting with a very serious challenge. And he said to me, please send me the details as soon as possible. I can tell you Monday morning when I got to the office, it was on a Saturday. Monday morning when I sent to the office, I sent him that information. Here is it, 3 years later. 2 years later. Not even the acknowledgement. Not even the acknowledgement. So the president can tell me that he had forgotten or this matter is not really serious at all. At the 60, it was out of over 4,000 cases. So I gave him the 60, which were low-hanging fruits, which were General Sibia and his team had already really completed. You just needed the NPA. In fact, the works, General Sibia had already done the work for them. The NPA, they just had to really prosecute. And unfortunately, even up to today, I'm still waiting for the letter of for an acknowledgement of receipt of my email or my these cases.
Sounds bad. What's your relationship with the president?
Well, the last time I saw him was at that event, and
yes, I do.
Yeah. So I don't really have any relationship with him whatsoever. I've never really had one even before.
Mr. Mashaba, we know that party political funding is a big honest nest in South Africa. A lot of people go in there, they end up accepting funds from all the sorts of doji people, and then they become like them. So do you have the resources to sustain your journey to 2021 and 2024? How are you going to raise funds in a way that will give South Africans assurance that you're not going into bed with people who are going to end up owning our country through you again?
Well, sorry, I think political party funding, it's not anything unique to South Africa. For anyone to really run a political party, you need resources. And I don't really believe there's any family anywhere in the world that can afford, can have the resources to run a full-fledged political party on their own. It's not, there is no family like that or in any individual like that. The only way you can run a successful political party that represents the people themselves must be able to really fund. And that's why I appeal to South Africans all the time to say, please assist my family. Was really very lucky that I've got the initial funding from my family, starting with the People's Dialogue to engage South Africans, to really give us the mandate, to assist us to put together the blueprint for what we stand for. But I don't come from a rich family, and I don't really have the resources to really run this indefinitely. I see more and more South Africans coming to the party every day. Today, we received 500 rands. August was lovely. I think we received 600,000 rands. But at the end of the day, if South Africans are not going to really support us, there's just no way that we can really sustain. I don't really have such resources. I don't really come from a rich family, but I'm quite confident that South Africans will come on board to assist us, because this project is not about Herman Mashaba. This project is about saving South Africa. But one thing I want to assure South Africans, that no one will dictate to us, regardless of how much you're giving us. Whether you give us 50 rands or you give us 500 million rands, your voice will be the same. So no one is going to really give us money to dictate the policies and the direction of our political party. And that's an assurance that I can give to South Africans.
Who do you look up to in South African politics? Who do you admire and why?
I think Gauta and Solly, I was probably born under really very difficult circumstances. And I look at every day as I get older, I did not realize the role that my grandfather would later on play in my life, because I was unfortunate losing my father at the age of 2. So I don't know calling someone dead in my life. Calling someone dead is foreign to me. But fortunately enough, I meant so much to this old man. I was everything to his life, and gave me a lot of wisdom and teachings as I was growing up. And I think one thing that my grandfather taught me is not to really look up to other people as a solution to your problems. You can admire them, but don't commit suicide in the event they don't do what you expect them to do. So I think for me, I'm not the kind of person where I would really say someone is my hero and so forth. I mean, I can give you an example of people that, for the success of this country, because I grew up never thinking that South Africa will make it, will achieve a peaceful transition. I give admiration to Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk for achieving peaceful transition. Let me tell you why. Nelson Mandela, you know what he went through. And the man to really come out and say, look, peace is actually the future. Building of an unracial South Africa, for me, is a priority. F.W. de Klerk, if I look at leaders all over the world, particularly in our continent, people will obviously stick to power, even when they can see that the ship is sinking, until people actually cut their head and run in the street with it. F.W. de Klerk really saw what was coming, and he had the bravery against all odds. When these people were saying you cannot really do it, he insisted on doing this. And I think for anyone to ignore that and ignore the contribution of F.W. de Klerk, it's their decision. That is mine. These two leaders, for me, I will forever admire them for delivering a peaceful transition to our country.
Friends, on that note, we have come to the end of this episode. Please subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button. And if you want notifications for the next episodes, click on the bell button.
This was a really awesome discussion. I'm really happy that Mr. Mashaba managed to make the time to come and join us, despite the various changes we had to make in order to get here. But I am also looking forward to our listeners telling us what they think about this discussion. Please tell us what you think about this discussion, and tell us also, what you want us to talk about in the future. Don't forget to join us on Twitter at Solly and Gauta. Thank you for joining us again. Bye.